So the star tetrahedron, one of its traits is that every point perfectly touches the inside of a sphere. Now, if in sacred geometry and geometry in general, we have the Platonic Solids. These shapes have other characteristics. So they have to, each point touches the inside of a sphere, but they also, every face has the same number of edges. Every length on the shape is the same length, and every angle inside the shape is the same degree. And that's the requirement to be a Platonic solid. Each Platonic solid has an element and a gender associated with it, so male, female, and child. And I would just like you to note that in the child column, we have the octahedron and the sphere. And I'll bring that up in a few minutes, but just remember that they're in the same column. And void and air are kind of the same elements, just as ether and water are kind of the same elements. So the two lists in the top right describe male and female energy. Our left brain is our male mind, and we've been a male-minded species since we fell in consciousness. Relatively out of balance. Now the male mind thinks logically. The female mind feels intuitively. So it's more faith-based. And a big part of me trying to present this information is this is what it took for my left brain to allow me to believe that my right brain existed, that there's things beyond that what we can see. Another thing worth noting is that male energy goes in straight lines, female energy goes in curved lines. And if we think back to that 64 tetrahedron grid, when the physics, so that was the three-dimensional shape, creating the two-dimensional curve structure, so it goes three-dimensional male to two-dimensional female. And I don't really have much to say about it, I just think about it all the time. Sequences are prevalent in nature. The binary sequence is male, and that's how our cells divide. The Fibonacci sequence is female, and that is what nature grows by. The golden mean ratio is often referred to as the perfect number, and the golden mean rectangle is it creates, that curved line is a never-ending spiral, and the golden mean rectangle can be infinitely created within itself and without. So it can grow just as the fractal condition, in and out. So the Fibonacci sequence adds the previous number of the sequence as opposed to doubling. So 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, and so on. Now, if you take any number in the Fibonacci sequence and divide it by the immediate previous number, it will give you a ratio. And that ratio gets closer and closer to the golden mean ratio the higher you go in the sequence. And the reason it does that is because the golden mean spiral does not have a beginning or end. And nature does not know what to do with something that doesn't have a beginning. So it kind of cheats and uses the Fibonacci spiral and creates spirals in nature. So the two images on the right are from, again, Drunvalo, Melchizedek's The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life. And the Fibonacci spiral is given its name because of a man named Leonardo Fibonacci, who lived 250 years before Leonardo da Vinci. And he was in nature, and he noticed that plants grew like that top right image, adding the previous number of the cycle. And then the list on the bottom shows a bunch of plants that grow with Fibonacci numbers. And it's really interesting if you go in nature and if you draw a horizontal line on a tree and count how many branches it has, and then you can go up to another one, and a lot of times it follows a Fibonacci sequence. And that's what he observed. So the spiral, the bottom right image is the spiral of a galaxy. So there's a black hole in the center of that, and we're spiraling around it. There is a dark arm and a light arm that spin opposite of each other. So that dark space is not completely energy, and it can be looked at as dark energy, but dark doesn't mean bad, it's just different. It's just a part of the cycles of nature. And more times than not, if a star or planet is going to die, it happens within the dark energy spiral as opposed to the light.